Socialization. This session will discuss the background knowledge about the socialization of a child, and the agents through which socialization can take place. It exposes you to the meaning of socialization and its ingredients in the personality composition and disposition of an individual.
Concept of socialization.
Socialization as a social process has been defined by various authorities in the field of sociology. Socialization can be described as the process of adaptation by the individuals to the conventional patterns of behavior. It thus occurs on account of the individual's interaction with others and the expression of the culture which operates through them. Ross defines socialization as the development of feeling in the ways and manners individuals behave in the society.
Bogardu has viewed socialization as the process whereby persons learn to behave dependably together on behalf of human welfare and, by so doing, experience social self-control, social responsibility and balanced personality. Areola sees socialization as the business of adjusting people to the way of life of the community, usually by way of initiation into its customs, beliefs, rituals, conventions, expectation and demands combined with instructions and the setting of examples.
Having gone through the ideas of various experts on the meaning of socialization, an attempt can be made to further justify the meaning of socialization as the process by which the individuals learn to behave according to the social traditions and conventionality of their environment. The human child has a remarkable capacity to imitate others to develop according to the tenets of environment. Freund and other psychoanalysts believe that the impressions made upon the child's mind at home determine the child's personality. This is because the child's mind is very flexible and susceptible to any influence. The parent's love for the child makes a deep impression on him. The cordial relationship between both parents had significant influence on the personality development of the child. Parents need to ensure that they display high level of moral maturity in relating with each other to serve as shining examples to their offspring.
Primary socialization, basic social learning, that typically occurs during the first few years of life. Primary socialization is the acquisition of a basic understanding of a society's values, norms, folkways, and mores, and thus includes learning things like language, eating practices, everyday rules of conduct, and etiquette. The patterns of behaviors that a society has to pass on to its new recruits are referred to as its cultures. In a primitive society, the transmission of the culture was major part of education. It majorly focused on how the children are given what we call primary education in the family without ever entering a school.
At the age of 5 or 6, children start to go to school. The family has already a great deal of educational care and nurture. Much of the culture has by this age been transmitted. Also during the next few years, when the majority of children are very malleable, the school works alongside the family to have very potent influence on the child. The schools have come to consider that they have a pastoral care for their pupils for good moral upbringing to complement the role of the family. But the values that the school tries to inculcate may be at odds with those that the family attempts to teach the child. For example, stealing may be taught very wrong by the teacher, but no one may prevent a country child from taking apples or mangoes from an orchard or a city child from taking fruit from a lorry moving through his playgrounds or streets. The children could learn all the roles that they had to play from the education that they receive as they socialized within the school and the extended family, because what they need to learn cannot all be taught with a nuclear family. This is because a nuclear family belongs to one social class and mainly meets members of the same class or almost the same social class. The exposure will be narrow and limited to the miniature environment. The early socialization of the child ought to embrace the nuclear family, extended family and the school for wider coverage of relevant items to be learned. Secondary socialization, the process of acquiring the more complex and subtle knowledge that we need in order to interact appropriately in the many complex roles we engage in as we mature and become involved in more and more institutions and groups. Primary socialization may not teach us how to act in school, a lecture hall, a union meeting, or a boardroom. However, as a result of secondary socialization, we acquire this knowledge later in life.
Resocialization.
The social learning process that involves deliberate and sometimes systematic efforts to change an aspect of what was previously learned. In an introductory sociology course, efforts may be made to resocialize you in order to have you understand and accept the sociological perspective. If you join the military, you will also certainly be resocialized.
Anticipatory socialization, learning values, norms, behaviors, and modes and rules of conduct in anticipation or some situation when you might need them. Before entering a new social or institutional setting, we frequently learn what might be expected of us, how to dress, how to talk, etc. in order to make our entrance into that new setting easier and to avoid embarrassing mistakes. Agents of socialization. The survival of any society depends solidly on the sufficient degree of homogeneity amongst its members. Socialization perpetuates and reinforces this homogeneity by fixing in the child from the beginning the essential similarities that collective life demands. These essential life ingredients are transmitted through the family, school, mosque, church, peer group, market, mass media, and so forth. The family is one of the many small face-to-face groups that are called primary groups, saddled with the responsibility of giving the offspring a qualitative and decent pattern of living. The family is expected to satisfy sex needs, reproduction, economic needs, feeding, clothing, shelter, medical provision, and so on. It is also expected to transmit the cultural values and norms to the young generation in order to be fully integrated into the society. The family is indeed the foundation of socialization because that is the first contact of the child. The inculcation of basic social values, desirable character traits and norms are learned first in the family. The home assists in laying the foundation for personality and character development of a child. The success or failure of an individual depends on the type of social takeoff acquired in the family setting.